In this video, we are going to explore unique strategies and common mistakes to avoid in self-help listening part 5. Alright, let's understand what this section actually is. In part 5, you will usually hear a discussion, a radio style communication, or multiple people sharing opinions, normally around 3 speakers, different viewpoints, and questions based on their opinions, attitudes, agreements, or specific details. And here's the dangerous part, this section is not testing can you hear English. It's testing can you track ideas while multiple people speak naturally. So that's the real challenge because real conversations are messy, right? People interrupt, people changes their opinions and they disagree politely. People sound uncertain, people use indirect language and self loves testing that. Okay? So part 5 actually tests can you identify who said what? Can you separate opinions from facts? Because you know the difference between the opinions and facts, right? And whether you can notice agreement and disagreement. Can you follow topic shifts? Can you understand the implied meaning, which means which is not directly said? Okay, because in real English, people rarely say things directly. For example, instead of I disagree, a speaker may say, well, I'm not completely convinced. That's disagreement, isn't it? Or instead of that's expensive, they may say that's a little beyond my budget. Same meaning, got it, but different wording. And self-help loves paraphrasing like this. So I'm going to give you important unique strategies, so kindly take your paper, pen, and make a note of all these unique strategies because these are gold that you cannot hear it in other videos. Okay? First one is stop listening for words and you have to listen for position. This one is huge because most students they listen like detectives searching for keywords. That's a wrong approach. Usually, high scorers they listen for the speaker position. That means the emotional direction and opinion movement. For example, imagine speaker 1 says, online learning gives flexibility. And then speaker 2 says, true, but students often lose motivation. Now, many students only hear flexibility and motivation, but only higher scorers hear partial agreement plus contrast, right? So that changes the answer completely. So don't just collect words. Track the relationship between ideas. So that we call it as advanced listening. And the second strategy here is follow the energy of the conversation. This sounds strange, isn't it? But it works unbelievably well because in part 5 the tone changes constantly, sometimes excited, sometimes doubtful, sometimes sarcastic, sometimes hesitant, sometimes frustrated, or even sometimes supportive. And tone often reveals the answer before the actual words do. For example, if someone says, yeah, that sounds great, with a sarcastic tone, the real meaning is negative, isn't it? But students who only listen to vocabulary, they get trapped. So you have to train yourself to ask, how does this speaker feel, not just what word did they say? And the next strategy is don't panic when you miss one sentence. So this is where many people they destroy their scores themselves. You miss one line, then your brain starts screaming, "Oh no, I missed it." Now everything is gone. And while your brain is panicking, the audio continues because the audio is not going to stop for you, right? Then you miss the next answer too. Then the next. So one missed sentence becomes 4 missed questions. Instead, let it go instantly. Then you can reconnect immediately and try to continue listening actively. Remember, self help does not require perfection. Sometimes one later sentence gives enough context to recover the answer. That's fine, right? So, mentally, you have to reset fast. That's a real test skill. And let me tell you some of the common mistakes that you should avoid in part 5. Mistake number 1 is choosing your answers too early. So you hear one familiar word and immediately you go and click an option. That's dangerous because self pep often gives partial truths. early distractions, or changed opinions later. Sometimes the speaker starts positive, then changes completely. You have to wait for the full idea. Got it? Then the mistake two, ignoring the transitions. What's like, however, actually, although, on the other hand, still, even so, these words are gold because they signal idea change. And most correct answers appear after these transition words. So you have to be very mindful when you're listening to these word shifts. And mistake three, focusing too much on difficult vocabulary. Sometimes many of you freeze because of one hard word. But the truth is, in self-help listening, understanding 80% of the conversation flow is more powerful than understanding 100% vocabulary. Now, let's move on to an example here. If you want, you can just pause the video. The situation here is you will hear three co-workers discussing a new company policy that requires employees to work from the office at least 4 days a week instead of working remotely. And you can see speaker one as Daniel, speaker two as Priya, and speaker three as Marcus. So you can find the discussion over here. You can just pause it and you can go through this one by one. And once you're done, we'll move to the question. Okay. The first question is, what is Daniel implying when he says the company is choosing the easier solution? You have the four options. Management lacks technological resources. Leadership is avoiding deeper organizational changes. Employees are refusing to cooperate with supervisors. The company cannot financially support remote systems. And the right option is option B because Daniel believes the company should improve. If you go back to the conversations, you can find the proper answer. Communication system, leadership methods, remote management strategies. Instead, management is simply forcing employees back into office because it is easier than solving the actual problems. So, this is an inference question. He never directly says leadership avoids organizational change, but it is clearly implied. Okay. And the second question here is, which statement best describes Priya's overall viewpoint? You have four options here. Remote work should completely replace office work. Employees are mainly responsible for workplace problems. Both remote and office work have disadvantages and advantages. Companies should prioritize financial investment over flexibility. And the right option here is option C. Because if you go back to the conversation, you can clearly see Priya consistently presents balanced opinions. So she understands employee frustration, she acknowledges collaboration issues, and she mentions weak supervision at home. And she also criticizes the company's sudden decision. So she never fully supports one idea. That makes option C the best summary of her perspective. Got it? Now, the third question here is, what does Marcus mainly criticize about the company leadership? And you can find the four options here. And the right option here is option C. Because Marcus repeatedly argues that good managers can still build strong remote teams. So, according to him, the real issue is not remote work itself. The problem is that leadership failed to adapt communication and management strategies properly. Got it? So that's why option C is the correct option. And for the fourth question, why does Daniel reject Marcus' argument about office investments? And you can go through the four options. The right option here is option B because Daniel says they are probably reacting emotionally because senior leadership prefers traditional office culture. This is what he said. So this means he believes management decision is based more on personal preference, traditional thinking than financial office investments. That's why option B, that management decisions are emotionally driven instead. Okay. So continue to implement all these strategies in your self-help listening part 5. That's all for today's video. Kindly like, share and subscribe for more self-help tips. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.